Tonight, the black boxes of TWA Flight 800 reveal their first clue.
The recording indicated a routine pre-flight takeoff and departure from JFK International. About 11½ minutes after takeoff, the recording ended abruptly.
And steps were announced to tighten airline security.
From now on, we will hand search more luggage and screen more bags. And we will require pre-flight inspections for any plane flying to or from the United States. Every plane, every cabin, every cargo hold, every time.
From Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Geraldine Ferraro. On the right, John Sununu. In the Crossfire, Mike Pangia, aviation attorney. Former FBI Special Agent Chris Ronay. And on Capitol Hill, Republican Senator Larry Pressler from South Dakota, chairman of the Transportation Committee.
Good evening. Welcome to Crossfire. The two black boxes from TWA Flight 800 have been found, and the voice recorder and the flight data recorder have already begun to yield information to federal investigators. And to help reduce the likelihood of terrorism on future air travel, the government increased security measures at airports. From now on, there'll be more stringent baggage inspections, checked baggage will be matched with passengers, and international flights will receive more thorough inspections. All of this will make use of more sophisticated inspection technology. Will these changes make a real difference, or are they just cosmetic? And could they have made a difference for TWA Flight 800? Jerry?
Mike, you're a former chief litigator for the FAA, so you've undoubtedly been around a lot of accidents. One of the biggest complaints coming out of everything that's being done right now is the complaint of the family of the victims. It's going too slow. And what I don't understand is if the Navy and if everybody has, if the NTSB has located the wreckage, why don't they just go down there with big hooks and bring the whole thing up so that they can find out whether or not there are more bodies in the sections of the plane that are down there?
Well, Jerry, it will be going on. The wreckage is over such a large area, and you have to be very careful in the way you extract it off the bottom. You don't want to do any damage to it that you don't have to do. I really feel for the families, representing families myself in many of these air disasters, about what they go through, the anxiety they go through, and I can understand it. But I could also understand the time it takes to carefully extract these things off the bottom and to bring them to warehouses and put them in warehouses in the right order so they could examine how the metal is torn and bent and things like that. It does take a long time to find it.
People are saying things like, we want our people back. We don't care what costs it. Give us our people back. Give us our family.
That. And a lot of the bodies, as I understand, are entangled in the wreckage. Some of them they may not even find.
How long do you think this is going to go on, this investigation? How long until they can finally say we can put our people to rest?
Well, we saw what happened in ValueJet, and some of the bodies just cannot be recovered. But I'm sure that this will be going on for many weeks to come.
Chris Ronay, let's talk a little bit about the two recorders. First of all, what can they get off the recorders? And what can't they get off the recorders?
Well, John, as you know, we have two recorders. They've described them in great detail in the days here as we anticipated their recovery. We have a cockpit voice recorder, and that records noises and sounds in the cockpit area. And if there was a catastrophic failure or a bomb explosion or any happening that made a lot of noise, there's a chance that will be recorded on the cockpit voice recorder. Likewise, the flight data recorder will record the systems in the aircraft and may very well prove to have recorded certain failures in certain locations to certain systems that would be helpful to the forensic investigators trying to identify the bomb.
Well, obviously the voice recorder, the sound recorder, was not destroyed because they've recovered it and you get data from it. And certainly the falling of the plane took multiple seconds. Why then is there only a fraction of a second of a problem recorded on there rather than at least the noise of the plane in its fall from whatever altitude the problem happened down to the moment it hit, at least to the moment it hit the ocean?
Mm-hmm. And I can't claim to be an expert in how these systems work on the aircraft, but if you lose power in these recorders. If the aircraft is damaged to such an extent that they don't continue to record, or that the mechanism to transfer the sound from the cockpit to wherever the recorder is in the airplane, let's say it's in the tail section, you're going to not have any more sound recorded.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about how long we think it might take for the analysis of these recorders to be done. They had some preliminary data today. Will there be another cycle of less preliminary but more extensive, and then a final cycle, or will they give it to us all at once? Or will they be able to give it to us all at once?
That's very, very hard to say. I have been involved in investigations in the past where you get little bits at a time because the analysis takes time, and yet they want to give you what they can as soon as they can.
Mm-hmm. I want to turn to the Senator. Senator, you've been critical of the administration in that they have not moved, in your words, fast enough to get the security in place, and you've also been concerned that the Reserve Trust Fund is running out of money, the Airport Development Trust Fund. Isn't that running out of money because the tax expired in December of last year, and the Senate and the House have just not moved to put it back in place?
Well, we have tried, but we have had no support from the administration. Now, the Tombstone Effect press conference that the President had today was nice, and I agree with most things he said, but the truth is that just 2 months ago, the administration announced it was trying to divert $500 million from airport security and airport areas to tuition tax credit programs. There's been a great void of leadership on the part of the Secretary of Transportation in terms of carrying out the 1990 Airport Security Act, which was supposed to have inspection of baggage in place by 1993. That's been slipped to 1997. Many of us have tried. As a member of the Finance Committee, we have put that ticket tax and those fees to help the Airport Trust Fund back into the minimum wage bill that's now in conference, and I'm a conferee. But we've gotten no help, not even a letter from the administration. So in substantive policy matters, this administration has been leaderless for the last year.
Well, let me pursue that with you, Senator. Do you believe that if any of these addition of the administration had turned around and had taken more of a participation and concern for the FAA Trust Fund and other things, that this incident might not have occurred, that security for it might have been in place, that perhaps the security might have prevented something like this from occurring?
Well, I've said everything I'm saying now in a June speech before either of the two crashes, so I can't prove that. But I do know that up until today, this administration has been leaderless in aviation security policy.
But and let me ask you, Senator.
And I need the Secretary of Transportation to be more forceful. I like him personally, but he just hasn't been on the scene, and we hope he'll come next week as a witness before our hearing. We had to delay the last hearing nearly 3 weeks to get him to come up here to talk about policy.
But is your hearing a reaction to the incident? And if it is, do you believe that the incident then was caused by a bomb or some sort of a missile?
No, our hearing is not a reaction to the incidents. It's to get airport security policy in place. We were working on it before the crash, and we have not had the cooperation of this administration. In fact, just 2 months ago, the administration announced it was trying to divert $500 million from the Airport Trust Fund, well, what is coming in, to the tuition tax credit. So they've just brushed off all efforts to work with us.
Mike Panzer, you've had some experience in this area. How much of this is just going to raise expectations and not be able to deliver in terms of enhanced security?
Well, you know, one of the problems that I see is that, let's say hypothetically, we find out that this accident was not caused by a terrorist act. All of this attention that we turn to security, does that go out the window? And that's the tombstone mentality that I see. And one of the problems that I see, too, is with the Federal Aviation Administration and the way it is structured. This transcends administrations. I've dealt with the agency when I was with the Justice Department in the aviation unit. I've dealt with them when I was there and then afterwards.
With the issue of what this can do. If it turns out that it was not a mechanical failure, and that still has not been ruled out, but it turns out that this was placed in Europe where the equivalents to all these enhanced security measures exist, doesn't that just undercut the improved security and the psychology that goes with it?
Of course it does. But we need to improve security in this country and treat it seriously. There's a possibility that a device was put on in another country and came to this country. It happened on a TWA plane in 1986, where a bomb was put on in Cairo. It went to Athens, flew to Rome, from Rome back to Athens, and TWA was told beforehand to look under the seats of all the airplanes on that run. They didn't. They looked under every other seat. The bomb was placed under a seat and went from city to city. In Pan Am, in the early 80s, there was a plane that flew 40,000 miles with a bomb on it, and some cleaning lady in Rio de Janeiro accidentally found it. So we definitely have to improve security in this country, treat it a little more seriously.
Let me just ask you about one item, and that's this. You are an expert on explosives. There's some question as to whether or not there was or was not chemical residue indicating explosives on the materials that have been recovered. What have you heard, if not on the news, at least behind the scenes?
Well, I've heard nothing behind the scenes that would lead me to believe there was a chemical residue identified. What happens in these situations is that screening equipment, instruments are taken to the scene or to the makeshift laboratory that's there, and specimens are analyzed. If there is a positive indicator, then they're removed to another location, back here to Washington to the FBI lab, where more sophisticated equipment is brought to bear. Those indications that we've heard that there were positives found up there have not been verified back with the other equipment. They are just screening things, and they can have false positives. We have to be careful not to jump to conclusions.
I mean, doesn't leaving the rest of that plane in the water, and they've only gotten 1% of it up, doesn't leaving it in there longer compromise the evidence? I mean, if it's in there for a month or a month and a half or 2 months, doesn't the chances of your being able, or anybody being able to look at residue and finding out what caused this thing to happen, doesn't that get affected by this whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, the water certainly can wash away some explosive residues. We saw in Oklahoma City that heavy rains made finding residue there very difficult. But that was the type of an explosive that is subject to water and is deteriorated by water. In this case, that may not be the case. If we had a plastic bonded explosive, we don't know. But if we had most high-velocity explosives leave residues that are not as soluble in water as, say, the kind of explosive we saw in Oklahoma.
So it's how long it's in there is a concern, but not a major concern as far as the equipment is concerned. It could be much more a concern as far as the human element is concerned.
Yes, it is, as far as the human element is concerned. But residues will still be there to be detected.
All right, well, we're going to come right back and we'll finish talking a little bit about this, but we'll also talk about some of the new security measures that are going in place. Longer lines, more money, greater delays. We'll find out when we come back.
We know there was a catastrophic explosion. It's caused by some sort of a bomb, obviously. We're not further describing where that would be, whether it was carried on or something hit the plane from outside and caused it to explode, or a mechanical problem that has nothing to do with terrorism or criminality, or something in the cargo that would have caused a mechanical problem.
You know, I read the other day that a large asteroid recently just barely missed the planet Earth. And they said that if it had hit, the explosion would have been like taking all the nuclear weapons from the U.S. and Russia, putting them in one pile, and blowing them up. In spite of this, NASA has decided to keep its search for other giant asteroids at its current meager level.
Time, the world's most interesting magazine.
In today's business world, it's not uncommon to shell out a significant investment only to come up empty. That's why Fortune is giving you a free shot at success. No tricks. Just call now and you'll get 3 issues of Fortune free. That means a free look at the most insightful and compelling business publication of our time. If Fortune isn't for you, simply cancel and pay nothing. The 3 free issues are yours to keep. But if you like what you see, you'll save over 50% off the newsstand price on your special trial subscription. That's 15 more issues, 18 in all, for just 4 monthly payments of $9.87. Call now, and with your paid subscription, you'll also get the Fortune portfolio. Absolutely free. The Fortune Portfolio is a handsome briefcase with a full-function calculator, a telephone address book, a handy writing set, and convenient pockets. It's perfect for business trips and seminars. And best of all, it's yours free. Call now for your free look at Fortune. You'll enjoy over 50% savings on your free trial subscription. You'll get the Fortune Portfolio free. And even if you decide Fortune isn't for you, you'll get to keep your free issues. You just can't lose. Get 3 free issues, over 50% savings, and the Fortune Portfolio free. Call now.
At Howard Johnson Hotels, kids stay free. And get free fun packs with cool Marvel superheroes. Just call 1-800.
The leading authority on sleep.
You know, I've lost a lot of sleep over Nitol. People who worried about sleep aids felt safe counting sheep. Now they count on Nitol. It helps them sleep without becoming a habit. Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Ready, take one.
There's a simple choice to make.
I still believe.
In this year of decision, CNN will devote more time and resources to covering the conventions than the other 3 networks combined. Reported by the most experienced team of correspondents and analysts ever assembled to help you better understand the issues and the candidates. For the most complete coverage of the Republican National Convention, turn to CNN, your campaign headquarters.
There will be additional costs, and there will be inconvenience to passengers. There will be delays. But we have found that every time we have increased security in our airports and with our airlines, that the traveling public has been very supportive and very cooperative, and we very much appreciate that support.
Welcome back to Crossfire. President Clinton announced today new security measures for U.S. airports. Are we willing to put up with long lines and higher costs? Our guests are former FBI agent Chris Ronay, Mike Pengia, an aviation attorney, and on Capitol Hill, Senator Larry Pressler, chairman of the Transportation Committee. John?
Senator Pressler, you've had a lot of testimony over the last few months to your committee. On the basis of what you've heard, what do you, as a member of the committee, and what do you think your colleagues expect will be able to be achieved with the increased improvements that were announced today and the ones you've been seeking?
Well, I think, first of all, we'll see that domestic baggage will be X-rayed in some form, which was provided for in the 1990 Act, but it's never been implemented. But number 2, the important thing is we have to find a way to finance this, to pay for it. And that was not mentioned in the President's press conference today. But in the Senate, we have put funding to restore the airport trust funds to get it from running out of money. But we need the administration on board. We need some leadership from the Secretary of Transportation. And that has not been achieved, because just 2 months ago, the administration, as I mentioned, was proposing to divert funds, even more funds, away from the Airport Trust Fund. So it's a good press conference today, but we need some substance to help us out.
Senator, if I could just follow up on that, because you keep on saying you need leadership from the administration. Secretary Pena has been in charge. He's got Department of Transportation people up in New York. He's got the FAA up there. He's got the National Transportation Safety Board. He's been fully involved on this whole thing. The only thing he hasn't been is he hasn't been on television.
Well,
and he has been criticized by Senator Bailey Hutchinson for being on television whenever any of these things occurred.
Well, I haven't criticized him for being on television or not being on television, but I do know as chairman of the committee that he's been nowhere to be found when we have these tough issues of financing over the past 6 months. I do know that the 1990 Act, which was supposed to have inspection devices in place by 1993, has not been funded, and there's been no action. There's been one study committee after another over there. It's time for strong leadership in transportation policy in this country. It has to come from the White House and the Secretary. Also, all the problems between the NTSB and the FAA, they've got to be worked out by the Secretary of Transportation. You know, President Clinton won the election. He is the president, obviously. Until today, we haven't had any leadership in this area from him or Secretary Pena. We need it. I hope we've got it now, but we're ready to act in Congress.
At a given airport where they might have 15, 20, 30 entrances that have security responsibilities, what will it cost that airport to install the measures that have been talked about today?
I don't know what it would cost to install these measures. I do know that X-ray will not pick up the plastic type of explosive. So if they have the X-ray looking at the bags, much of the explosive that is used today today's explosive technology, if you will escape X-ray.
So we're installing equipment under this new program announced by the president that isn't going to work.
Well, the new program, you know, if we go back to the Act of 1990, the Act of 1990 said take these TNA devices and hold off on that, and that was the thermoneutron detection systems, because it was going to be a lot of money and it may not detect a lot of the new explosives. But they have new CAT scan type devices. They are expensive. And right now, airlines, well, it's $1 million for one, but...
So $30 million, $40 million per airport.
Cheap in consideration of even
but I mean,
one
that's the number we're talking
crash.
about, just so that people have a perspective.
Yes. Europe has about 20 of them. In fact, one was brought over from Brussels to be used for the Olympics in Atlanta, I understand. And we have 2 more, I think, in this country, one in San Francisco and one somewhere else, but we didn't have any looking in bags for this aircraft.
With your expertise,
but let me ask one question. If that's the case, why don't we go to that technology instead of what we announced?
Well, I think we should.
Yes, and I would...
So what was announced was a waste of time.
Well, possibly a waste of time, but you know, if we announce, what we have to do is we have to check the luggage. Domestic luggage is not checked, routinely not checked. So it's only the international luggage, which was supposed to be checked anyway.
But checked with mechanisms that don't find the plastique, which as you've acknowledged, was what was used on Pan Am 103.
It was a type of plastic explosive. I understand on Pan Am 103. We need detection equipment for this, or else they're going to have to inspect the luggage.
Chris, if you were to say what should be put into place so that these bombs were, if it is indeed a bomb, and nobody has said that this plane was blown up by a bomb, but if indeed it were a bomb, what kind of security measures could you take? If John is saying that the machines don't work, and if they're saying that none of the security suggestions that were made today are going to work, what would work? What should we do?
Well, Jerry, the machines do work. There are many kinds of instruments that are capable of detecting explosives, but there are many kinds of explosives.
So that you know the next
approach.
generation with each machine, probably.
Well, the explosives don't change so much, but as the machines are developed, they're more capable of detecting a wider range of the explosives.
Senator Pressler, you heard my comments about what can be done with what was announced versus what can be done with the next generation. Are you funding what was announced? Would you like to fund what was announced, or do you want to fund the next generation?
The next generation. We should copy what they're doing in London, the Netherlands, and Israel. They use a combination of the next generation plus a sniffer device. And they're not completely perfect, but they're better. And as we build more of them, the cost will come down. But we need to make a policy and act. Congress is only in session for 5 more weeks. We need to work with Secretary Pena and the President. We have a plan. We need to get the Secretary of Transportation to help.
Senator,
we've got to have the administration on board. As
we
you know,
have a deadline, and you have a vote to get to. We thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks very much for being on Crossfire.
Thank you very much.
Chris, thank you very much for joining us. Mike Pengia, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Jerry and I will be back in a second to try and wrap this up.
The leading authority on sleep.
You know, I've lost a lot of sleep. Over Nitol. People who worried about sleep aids felt safe counting sheep. Now they count on Nitol. It helps them sleep without becoming a habit. Nitol will help you get your Z's.
The switch is on to CNN FM because you asked for immediate coverage of breaking business news.
We delivered.
You asked for solid practical advice on personal investing.
And we've responded.
You asked for no-nonsense coverage of the markets.
And we're there.
And you asked why business news has to be so dull.
It doesn't. I'm Lou Dobbs. Switch to CNN FM. It's not the same old business. It's business unusual.
Sunday, the tragic end of TWA Flight 800. Was it a horrible accident or a deadly act of terrorism? The difficult and frustrating search for answers. CNN Time presents Sunday, 9 Eastern.
Every president since Nixon has done Larry King Live. Jimmy Carter, a great ex-president. An incredible moment with Reagan. I asked him, what is it like to be shot? He answered, breathtaking. Controversy, world leaders, we got them. Arafat, Gorbachev, Farrakhan. Some nights I think history's being made right in our studio.
Let me respond to this if I could, would you?
And man, I love that.
Today on Burden of Proof, crash investigators finally find the black boxes.
The data recorder, the cockpit recording. What will they tell us about TWA Flight 800 today, 12:30 Eastern on CNN.
Here's a look at our top stories. Investigators search for clues in the deadly crash of TWA Flight 800, while officials prepare to search luggage and then some at airports across the nation. Stay tuned for more news on CNN.
He's called the greatest piano player in country music history, Floyd Kramer. Heartland Music presents Floyd Kramer in his brand new collection of all-time classics. Floyd plays 30 of the greatest country songs ever. Songs that will live forever. Floyd brings his special piano magic to every song. 30 classic hits. From beautiful love songs to best-loved favorites. All played by the great Floyd Kramer. But remember, this all-new Floyd Kramer collection is not in stores. Please stay tuned to order.
Call 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $16.98 for records or cassettes or $19.98 for 2 CDs plus $3.50 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to New Floyd Kramer, P.O. Box 2919, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, save COD charges by sending check or money order or use your credit card.
Cover your eyes, America. This is the mother lode of monster movies.
Fear no evil.
And they run wild. Monster Movie Massive continues tomorrow night at 8 with King Kong on TNT.
To access CNN Interactive on the World Wide Web, call 1-800-WORLDNET, extension CNN, for free Internet software.
You know, John, listening to Larry Prester, he's beating up on the Clinton administration, blaming them for everything in sight, and it's really, I really hate to see the politics of this thing being played out.
But
and Bob Dole today.
But in fairness to Senator Pressler, he's been saying this since the end of last year, in January and February,
he should have gotten
making
a tax
the same
in there.
points.
They should have got a tax in, but Bob Dole says never plays politics
these funds properly, and the administration's been asking him to put them other places.
And here is Bob Dole saying he never plays politics with tragedy, and then he does the exact same thing Larry Prester has, and he says for 3.5 years, where's this been?
Jerry, announcing ancient technology is political.
We've got to go. From the left, I'm Geraldine Farrar for Crossfire.
And from the right, I'm John.